Your favorite writer's favorite writer. David Mamet is a legit living legend. He is the screenwriter behind so many of these legendary films that came back in the cut, where traits associated with meritocracy and you rising the ranks were prioritized over the garbage. His words, not mine. Mine would be far more coarse, that are prioritized in the current hiring practices that involve diversity, equity, and inclusion. He becomes the latest in a long line of icons to finally call this stuff out. Now that it has failed and completely rotted the industry that he lent credibility to, now it's really, outside of an ideological lens, become completely and totally unavoidable with modern movie criticism, unless of course we're talking about a Zack Snyder film and it's just bad on its own face. But David Mamet calls Hollywood's diversity efforts fascist totalitarianism. Yeah, Mamet kind of takes it up a step from his other contemporaries that would normally go, oh, this is just not very good. No, he's just going to go ahead and use the words of the activist class and just spin them back onto it. Yes, the Pulitzer Prize winning screenwriter, playwright, author. I actually have a David Mamet book, okay, over in my own personal library. I have 3 Uses of the Knife, one of the quintessential screenwriting books that will absolutely change the way that you view media and storytelling. I can't highly recommend it enough. So it was really cool to see somebody that I respect come out and have a very respectable point of view. If you're unfamiliar with the name, chances are you aren't unfamiliar with his work. I've got it pulled up here just on my little phoneroo, and just some films, because if I was to read his entire body of work, we'd be here all day. But he wrote The Untouchables, okay, back in 87, The Verdict in 82, Glengarry Glen Ross. Oh, that little thing? Yeah, that comes from the mind of David Mamet. Hoffa, Ronin, Hannibal, just a couple of notable highlights in his career. He's a big inspiration of so many quality minds, both in and out of the industry, that his word, it does carry a bit of weight. So for him to just simply lay it all out on the line like that, man, game respects game. Legendary Hollywood screenwriter David Mamet is no fan of entertainment industry's efforts to drive greater diversity, equity, and inclusion in its ranks. DEI, I would say DIE, and he refers to it as garbage, Mamet told the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books on Sunday during a session with Matt Brennan. Mamet, who was on hand to talk about his memoir, Everywhere an Oink Oink, an embittered, dyspeptic, and accurate report of 40 years in Hollywood. Yeah, because he was one of these early adopters. He's not one of these Johnny-come-latelys when it comes to being an outspoken conservative. He's been doing this for quite a long time. Added that the industry's DEI efforts amounted to fascist totalitarianism, according to an account in the Times. The playwright and director, who has worked in Hollywood since the 80s, is known for his trademark rapid-fire script dialogue. Which, yeah, I know that Alec Baldwin in recent years, about the past decade and change, has really showed his true colors, but I mean, one of the best performances of his career is in Glengarry Glen Ross, Coffees for Closers. Like, come on. That's straight out of the mind of David Mamet. There you go. That's the quality of writing that this guy provides. You just point to any diversity hire in the entire industry that could come up with anything on that level. You can't. Not even approximate. Not even standing in the lobby that the level of talent that Mamet's accomplishments would afford. There's truly no comparison here. The playwright and director, who has worked in Hollywood since the 80s, did not shy away from criticism during an informal conversation at USC's Newman Recital Hall. There's no room for individual initiative, Mamet said, in the film industry, having experienced growth, maturity, decay, and death. Where have we heard this before? This is very much an accurate representation of what so many independent critics have talked about time and time again. The growth, during the time that he was there, in the post-50s Hatch Act boom period, where, you started to have some independent money during the Renaissance in the late 60s, early 70s, back when Mamet was finding his footing, and contemporaries like John Milius, the guy behind Jaws, in case you haven't heard about it, another fellow conservative, things where your political leanings were the least important thing about what you could do in a writer's room. And hell, there wasn't even a writer's room. There was a writer. It might have input from the director, maybe the producer, maybe if he has a couple of good ideas and he's proven his worth beforehand. And of course, talking about the maturity period, which I think it's inarguable at this point, the 80s until about the early 2000s was a real high point for cinema. Nothing's, especially as far as the eye can see right now, nothing's ever going to broach that legendary period for film. Decay, which is, what we've basically been dealing with, and death, well, we're right there on our doorstep, guys. I don't think that Hollywood is too big to fail. The government might try to prop it up, but if nobody goes to see any of the propaganda slop that we've been consistently fed, well, does it even matter if they're still being kept in positions of employment? I didn't think so. Okay. But he has to just reframe this. Mamet said the film industry having experienced, growth, maturity, decay, and death, there's no room for individual initiative, especially in the wake of a recent Hollywood writer strike, which was precipitated by sheer hubris on the part of the writers, thinking that they were worth way more than they deserved, not realizing that sheer apathy from the public in regards to the plight of the Hollywood writers was kind of fomented, given the fact that we've been able to see their work on screen, or rather, we didn't see it because it's been crap, followed up with more crap. It'll be a lot less work, he speculated, but the scripts will be better. Yeah, that's one great thing, and he does in fact see the light at the end of the tunnel, which, you can go ahead and take a look, and I did a video on this. There are fewer, there's a handful of pilots being asked for? Well, back during the streaming boom when everybody was locked down, it's so wild to think that Hollywood, with their specific industry, had a 2-year head start when everybody else was locked down in their homes, not allowed to work, and they squandered it to a point where you have 5, 6 TV show pilots that are being asked for by the big companies. And back in 2020, 2021, they were asking for hundreds, leading to, there's so many out of work writers where they're having to live, they're having to couch surf, they're having to drive Uber. There's one that's even living in a tent. I was like, we've seen your resume. It sucks. There's probably a reason that you're homeless. Buy a hybrid and pick up a couple of fares, because the screenplay that you've been working on, you've been plugging away at in the background, it's not paying the bills. But he rejected that his children, including Zoya Mamet, who starred in Girls, sorry to hear about that, ever got work because of their association with the Glenn Ross stage play Scribe. They earned it by merit. Nobody ever gave my kids a job because of who they were related to, which exactly, that's why the important information behind this, it's like you see David Mamet being appropriately described as a legend in the industry. He's also quite an outspoken man, as you can see here. Mamet has a particular gripe about the inclusion rules the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has implemented for films to be considered for the Oscars Best Picture category. I can't give you a stupid statue unless you have 7% of this, 8% of that. It's intrusive. He also said the film industry has little business improving everybody's racial understanding, as does the fire department. It's pretty scathing. Regarding nepotism, talking about his daughter, they earned it by merit. Talking about his daughter, who starred in HBO's Girls, and recently she was in Madame Web. Sorry to hear about that. They haven't benefited from any type of privilege. And trust me, the fact that I didn't know that she was associated with Madame Web, I would consider that a privilege in and of itself. So shout out to David Mamet for absolutely crushing it with his assessment and for being an absolute living legend. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.